So I'm Kathy Kuntz with the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change. We're going to talk about collaboration today and how in purple states we can collaborate in ways that actually move the needle when other things don't move the needle in purple states. So that's not what I want to have happen. And just something here. Somebody did something and now nothing works to something worked there. Let's see if this will work. Okay. It was just leaving something. So we are an office in Dane County. That's where Madison is. We were set up to work on two big priorities. Bringing our county operations, where last year we achieved 100% renewable offset electricity for all county operations, fourth county in the country to do that, we believe. And we're on track to be carbon neutral across our facilities, fleet, and land operations by 2030. Mostly my colleagues in other departments get credit for all of that. The bigger part of what our office does is reduce countywide emissions. And there our goal is to cut emissions in half by 2030 and be carbon neutral by 2050. And the thing to know here already is that in Wisconsin, counties have almost no regulatory authority. Let's just say none. It's really very close to none. So getting there is all about persuasion, and it's really why we started thinking about collaboration. But before I get into the Wisconsin stories, I thought it would be good to just go around and have everyone say who they are, where they're from, including what state. That's going to matter later. And if you want to tell us something you want to get out of this, that's fine. But if you want to just tell us who you are, that's good too. I think that can help us, and we'll start over there, that table.
Hi, I'm Catherine Couch. I work for Hamilton County Tourism. That's in Indiana, the county just north of Indianapolis. And
Let's pass this around because that'll be easier. Did you all?
I'll say it again. Okay, I'm Catherine Couch. I work for Hamilton County Tourism, which is the county just north of Indianapolis. And I think one of the reasons I'm attending this is tourism is in an interesting spot, really at the intersection of community like placemaking, right? Which then involves nonprofits. It also involves cities and county level, because we're a county level tourism destination management organization. I learned all these terms recently entering into tourism. I got into sustainability. And then, so I think I'm sort of interested in how I can leverage being in that intersection and support governments and grassroots and all those things in transition.
Hi all, my name is Nikki Horniak. I work with Keep Indianapolis Beautiful and I knock over water bottles. I am from Indianapolis, Indiana. I am attending this workshop. Most of my position deals with working with businesses, local organizations, community organizations on the trash and litter issues that we're facing in Indianapolis. So just wanting to kind of understand a little bit more about how governments are working, and just thought it was an interesting session.
My name is Madison Neer. I'm from Tippecanoe County Solid Waste and Recycling District, and I work for a local nonprofit as well for the Wabash River. I'm an environmental educator for both of those organizations, and same as Cal, Catherine said it. I like to really see how nonprofits and local governments can work with communities to lead change, climate change, or just environmental changes in communities.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Bankowski and I'm a first year MBA student here at Indiana University, but I go to school in Bloomington. And I attended this workshop because I'm originally from Michigan, so I'm really interested in how a lot of Midwestern states interact, but specifically those purple states. Obviously going to school in Indiana and being from Michigan, I feel like I've seen a lot of different Midwest connections, so also really passionate about local government work.
Hi everyone, my name is David Shamika. I work with Green Umbrellas and Regional Climate Collaborative Manager. So the reason why I attended this workshop is Presently, one of my roles is to work with local governments, so because we cover about 10 counties in the region of in the greater Cincinnati. So, and this summer I'll be supervising like 3 fellows on our climate action fellowship program, which also do with working with local government to take climate efforts to this level, and also to develop actions and implementation. So that's our opportunities to really learn, and also to interact with others. Thank you.
I'm Alex Morales-Heil. I work at Washington University in St. Louis in our Center for the Environment. I'm just gonna stick with my introduction.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brianna Coleman. I am from St. Louis and I'm functioning in both capacity as a ULI representative. So that's the Urban Land Institute with a focus on the built environment and communities. I'm also a landscape architect, so certainly I'm excited to hear more about how governments are interfacing, particularly in purple states. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Franny. I'm an environmental engineering student at WashU, and I just thought this seemed interesting, so. I go to you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Peters. I'm a program manager with Energy Sciences. I work a lot with local governments and do a lot of grant writing. I'm from Metro Detroit, Ferndale to be specific, if you know where that is. And yeah, I'm just really excited to learn more about the approach to regionalism throughout the Midwest and how everybody else, does it, so we can share what we know.
Hi, I'm Shannon Anderson. I'm the Advocacy Director at Earth Charter in Indiana. I am so glad to see so many of my fellow Hoosiers here. I think that Indiana hopes to be a purple state when it grows up, so I think we're here to learn. My organization, of course, loves to work with our cities across the state to advocate for often youth-led climate action.
Hi all, my name is Allison. My pronouns are they, them. I am originally from Madison, Wisconsin, but right now I'm a student of environmental public health at University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. And I'm here because I have aspirations to go into the government and climate policy, and I just want some tips on resolve and just how to take it on.
Hi, I'm Mo McReynolds. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a project manager with the Office of Sustainability for the City of Minneapolis. So glad to have you all here.
Hi, my name is Therese Durrell. I'm with Indiana University's Environmental Resilience Institute. We work with a lot of local governments in Indiana that are leading on climate change, and I'm curious to see if there's more that ERI can do to help convene or connect local governments that want more support from each other so that we can act regionally and statewide.
Hi, Lauren Norvell, City of Evansville, Climate Action Director. I wanted to attend because we are starting from scratch and we are building coalitions and collaborative partnerships every day.
Jeremy Karen, I'm the Sustainability Manager for the City of Des Moines in Iowa, and attending this workshop with the first Iowa community to join the Midwest Climate Collab. And so excited to see how everybody's leveraging this organization for building partnerships across governments, academia, and the private sector, nonprofit sector to advance.
Hi, hello, my name is Alicia Russell. I'm the Sustainability Director for the City of St. Louis. I'm so happy to be here. Also on the steering committee for the Midwest Climate Collaborative, so woo. And I'm heard about this workshop. It seems really interesting. I want to learn more about collaborating with other cities and regionally, just so we can accelerate the work we want to do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Peterson. I am with the Center for Climate Strategy, so we're a national nonprofit organization that provides technical assistance and capacity building to states and localities and community organizations on climate change policy development and implementation. And actually was a presenter early to share on some of this stuff. So very interested in learning more about what everybody's doing to I'm also interested in knowing, because another hat that I wear is that, in my hometown in, Northern Virginia, the city of Fairfax, I'm appointed as the chair of our city's environmental sustainability committee. So involved in helping the city move forward, in all of these areas, on its own, but together with, I think, 16 or 18 other jurisdictions, cities and counties. So I'm sort of feeling your pain, although we're probably a little bit more purple than you are, but we're like red and blue and purple, and I think we've got some other colors that have switched. Kind of really interested to see what's going on here.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Chandler from the city of Evansville, Indiana, southwest portion of the state. And I work with them with the government, so I'm just here to learn more and build better coalitions and collaborate.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dakota Court. I work for the government of Canada, out of the consulate that's in Detroit. They do by Americans to do things from time to time. I'm a trade commissioner, which means in essence, we do business development for the Canadian economy here in the US. I work specifically in the Midwest, but my sectors are clean tech and smart cities. So I'm always trying to look for ways, coming from an economic development background in and around Southeast Michigan prior to that, to link communities, municipalities that are always overstretched, underfunded, understaffed, with innovative companies, technologies, and find better ways to do it through coalitions or through convening, because trying to, call you guys at any given point, you're getting calls from everybody all the time, so it's not a high priority. So I'm always looking for ways to build coalitions.
Hello, everybody. I'm Carissa Menifee, and my work's at the intersection of arts and environment. So I co-direct the MFA program in creative writing and environment at Iowa State University. I'm also the artistic director of the Eco Theater Lab. So my interest in this workshop is that a lot of the work that we do is trying to figure out how citizen artists can help advocate, become change agents, and communicate with the public in ways that maybe government organizations don't do very well, and how then we can assist to really create effective modes of conveying information, getting people involved, and getting people excited about the good things that should be happening.
Hello, it's so cool to hear what everybody does. Thank you for asking this question. I'm Jamie Humpling, and I also am in county government. I work for Douglas County in the Kansas Sustainability Office, and we are just about to get a climate action adaptation plan off the ground adopted. Probably looking at May for that, so hopefully that's going to happen. And I'm just really super interested in how it gets implemented at a county level. We hear a lot about how cities do it, but counties are unique in ways, so super interested in hearing where you're going to take this. Bring it back to you.
Yeah, those three over there need to.
Don't worry, you got all of us too. My name is Madeline Roberts. I am a legislative policy fellow at the Boost Policy Initiative in Missouri. I am here because I obviously work much more around state policy and really entirely unfamiliar with the action on sustainability and climate at the local level. So just here to learn more about what you do. And then I'm a Badger, so I have a soft spot in my heart for Madison. Always excited to hear about what Dane is up to.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sydney Brenland. I am a local. I work for the Marion County Public Health Department here in Indianapolis, kind of at the intersection of public health, sustainability, built environment, social determinants of health, all that good stuff. And like I said, my title is Planning and Collaboration Coordinator. So my position is really all about collaborating with my colleagues at the local level, at the city of Indianapolis, other nonprofits, and kind of seeing how people are tackling social determinants of health across the United States and seeing what I can bring back to Indianapolis. So excited to hear about what other local governments are succeeding with in these purple-ish states. Hello, I'm Madison Byerly, I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Indianapolis. I work in the Indianapolis Office of Sustainability. I'm our benchmarking program manager. I'm interested as somebody in a blue dot in the red state. What we can do. My name is Dane. I work for the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization. We're a regional government and our board is made up of local governments. So interested to see what I can take from this session and also seeking a little bit of validation, sometimes day-to-day work, and sustainability is kind of like a cheese grater to the forehead here. So it's nice getting validation and commiseration at times.
Get it, Annie. Kathy, I miss Liza. Would you mind to go back to Liza?
Yeah.
Apologize.
No, I hit a button then. I knew that Liza got missed. I was gonna catch that.
Feel famous now. I'm Liza Waters from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I work in the Office of Sustainability, and we're really interested in thinking about how higher ed can partner better with local and state government.
Awesome, thank you. So I appreciate getting to hear all of that. Like, it helps me think about some of what I'm gonna do, but it also helps you know who else is. Because at a conference like this, like, there are a lot of experts in the room on a lot of different things, and it's just good to be aware of that, because hopefully there was someone who introduced themselves who you thought, you should catch them at the next break, because they know something I wanna know. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is sort of ground you in Dane County in Wisconsin, and then we'll talk about the specifics of these collaborations. So Dane County is that pretty orange square there in the middle of the Midwest where, according to Yale, opinions on climate vary. The more orange you are, the more sure you are that something's happening. So 72% of people in Dane County are worried about climate change compared to 64% nationally and 60% in Wisconsin. We're the fastest growing place in Wisconsin. We have a tradition of progressive politics. We also have significant equity issues we've not dealt with historically, some complicated things there. And blowing that up a little bit for you, what our county exec would say is our constituents expect us to lead on this. This is like, of course Dane County is going to lead, sort of thing. So hence our ambitious goals and all the things we're trying to do. And I want to show you that it's not so. This is Dane County writ large. There's Madison in the middle. All of those communities with the white boxes have active sustainability committees. Some Wanakee up there, the world's only Wanakee, as of only like 2 months ago, kind of thing. So there's like this constituent pressure for folks to be part of this across Dane County. Wisconsin is very purple, okay? What I'm showing you here, this is the fall 2022 election. A Democrat won our gubernatorial race with 52%. A Republican on the same ballot won the statewide Senate race with less than 1%. Okay, we're as purple as it gets, kind of thing. Except when you come to our legislature, which is clearly more red than purple. You might have heard stories about gerrymandering in Wisconsin. The reality, until this fall election, the Republicans have had a supermajority in one chamber and very close to it in the other chamber. So, and they're sort of opposed to anything that Democratic governor wants to do, so they're opposed to all of the clean energy things happening in the state. That's how politics work in our country right now. The other guy says up, you say down. I mentioned this earlier, counties don't have very much authority. And so in some states, counties have what's called home rule authority. You can do anything that's for the benefit of your constituents. We don't have that. We only can do things that the state legislature has said counties can do. So we can't offer rebates to people or incentives because no one can find a way to work that into what we're allowed to do with people. And our state legislature is famous nationally for preemption, which is when a state legislature says local governments shall not do X, Y, and Z. I think the one of these that made them famous was the plastic bag ban, because within a week of the cities of Milwaukee and Eau Claire starting to talk about a plastic bag ban, the legislature had passed a ban on bans, and the then Republican governor had signed it. So it was like, you know, they had like one committee meeting, and the next time they came back, they were like, oh, it's now unlawful for you to do that.
We have that here.
Yeah, well, because that's how things work in a purple state. So we've got all of these things that local governments aren't allowed to do, and that creates a dynamic in a place like Dane County where we don't want to make a policy that just causes a preemption to happen. So this last legislative session, municipalities cannot mandate EV charging in new developments is a brand new one this last session. We had 2 communities who had ordinances on the books, and those are now no kind of thing. So there's like all of this pressure against us locally. At the same time, everything about climate is local. These are pictures from a 2018 flood in Dane County. I don't know, tens of millions of dollars of damage, a human life lost. Very, very clear to us that, okay, these issues are local, and local officials are held accountable for what happens. People have more of a relationship with their mayor than they have with someone in the state legislature or the governor, so they hold them more accountable for these things. So there's a bunch of pressure for local governments to figure this out and be the leaders, even if it's hard. But it's so hard. The cheese grater on your face example here. So probably some of you have this, you know, the experience I have maybe once a month is I will get a call or an email from a climate activist who says, I just read about this thing they're doing in insert Seattle, Boston, you know, somewhere that like is not purple. And it's amazing. Why aren't we doing this? And what I have to usually say is we aren't allowed to do that, which is really not a very satisfying answer to them. And it's not a very fun thing to say. We aren't allowed to do that. We can't do that. You know, so there is pressure on us to think about how to innovate. And I have the best county exec in the country, but I will tell you it comes from him too. When we started writing our climate action plan, he met with the council and he said, you guys could come up with a huge list of things that the state should fix so that we can act. I don't want to see any of that in your plan. I only want to see the things we can control, which was legitimate and made us have a much better plan. But geez, I have a list and I would like to air it at some point. So there is like all of this pressure on us in purple states, and I think light red with blue dot states too, to build consensus and spur action. And how do we do this? I want to say here that it's really clear to me that the IRA could be a lifeline in this because of things like elective pay, that where if you do a project, you get a credit from the federal government and there's nothing the legislature can do to get in the way of that. It's federal money. There's a lot of opportunity here to move us forward in ways that demonstrate what's possible to our bigger regions. But at the same time, this is a huge corn maze, people. And if you are on your own, most of our offices are small, and you're trying to make sense of this as a single entity. It's just really, really, really hard, which I think speaks to the need for collaboration. So I'm going to tell you about 2 partnerships in Wisconsin, because you know we're Wisconsin, we have to like overdo it all the time. So I have a Dane County specific partnership called the Sustainability Leaders Collaborative, SLC, that includes all of the local governments in Dane County. And then we have Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. We're really good at short acronyms too. That is a statewide entity that involves cities, villages, and counties that have sort of signed on to clean energy pledge of sorts. Okay, and so I'm going to talk about each of them separately, and then we're going to sort of talk in general. So the point of SLC, the Dane County specific one, is to really focus on local action. Remember, I can't mandate anyone to do anything. I've got 61 cities, towns, and villages, and 16 public school districts, all of which are making their own decisions that affect countywide emissions, which I care about. So essentially, we created this collaborative to bring them all together and help them do the things I want them to do. And what we're doing here is, we're focused on a bunch of green things. The point here is collaborative action. So this coalition was inspired in part by a grant application that 7 municipalities participated in back in 2017. They wrote a proposal to the state to get money for energy planning together. Instead of each of them doing their own plan, they were going to do a collaborative plan where they'd each have a chapter in the plan that was specific to them, but they were going to do it coincident. And what we learned is it was much easier to do a plan in parallel with another community than it was to do it alone. Because when one person got stuck, I can't figure out who has this fleet data. Someone else went, oh, you know what? In our community, it's this guy over here who has it. And it let the other people figure out how to get it done too. So, and those 7 communities all say, we would have never gotten through that planning on our own. They're all relatively small communities. This wouldn't have worked without being in a cohort. So it really made us believe in this cohort model. We have a current cohort going on around SoulSmart. Some of you might know SoulSmart. It's a national program to recognize communities, I'm seeing some head nodding, that have solar-friendly permitting zoning policies. Essentially you become SoulSmart certified at a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum level based on your community's support for that industry thriving in your community. Well, one of our communities wanted to do SoulSmart, but they were kind of like, Kathy, this feels like a big lift for us to do on our own. And so I convinced our regional planning commission to help us do a cohort. So we ended up with 2 cities and 2 villages. The planning commission and Dane County will all get SoulSmart certified in the next couple of months. Actually, we just heard, I'll tell you, we got platinum, which is great. My staff was like, is that better than gold? And I'm like, yes, it's better than gold. We got the.
Are you gonna be first?
We are the first county. We will have 2 platinums when we're done with this in Dane County. It's very cool. So, and part of the process here is for a community, they have to get their planning folks to go to a training about, solar planning. Well, to get the certification for the county and the PARPC, we have to host a training. Like, it makes a ton of sense to do this together. We host a training and get those points. They attend the training and get their point. We all, it's the synergies are really clear. And really, SLC is all about resources. So I do a monthly newsletter out to the group. So there you see one of the communities that got gold was in the newsletter last month. We do a lot of webinars, and we do some routine group meetings. We also do one-on-one support sorts of things. This is all about showcasing the cool things people are doing, helping other people do it too. It's very supportive, kind of collaborative. I threw this in here just to give you a sense. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a webinar on the elective pay credits. We've got a couple of communities that have filed for credit, And so we just talked about what that filing process was like and how it worked and what they learned from it to make it less scary for everybody else. But also to amplify that, look, these communities have already taken advantage of this. What are the rest of you doing? Because that's a piece of this, is there's a little friendly competition in the whole of this. In terms of how this works, we collaborate with the city of Madison to lead it, mostly because I'm passionate about it. The city is like, yeah, Kathy, do that. That's a good idea. I consider this part of our climate action efforts. There is no allocated funding for this. It's maybe close to 10% of my time, but if it's getting all of our local governments aligned with our climate goals, it's well worth that investment. And we do, so most of our work is at the staff level where there's staff. We have an annual event in person for the first time in a really long time where we bring together elected officials and showcase what communities are doing, because it's really powerful in terms of momentum to have the mayor in the room when you say, this community is doing such a great job, because the mayor feels like they get to take all the credit for that, even though, you know, they probably didn't do all the work, but it creates more support for the next thing that staff in that community wants to do, which is part of the aim of this, is that it's that. I feel like I've been talking for a long time there. Wait, oh no, I have one more about them, results. So one of the things that's really clear in this collaborative is that there's this powerful ripple effect that happens. So one of our smaller villages completed a net zero energy elementary school just before the pandemic. That's that top picture there, Forest Edge. And we could showcase this in all kinds of different ways across SLC. We did some events where people could tour it. We've now got, this bottom picture is a public safety building that another village just finished that is net zero energy. We have 2 libraries that will be net zero energy under construction, and public utility facility, and a bunch of other things in discussion. Because once you start having these net zero energy buildings and people know about each other's buildings and they've toured them, that picture of leaders we had was actually at the public safety building in McFarland. It starts to become, oh, well, it's kind of weird that we're not doing that. We don't want to be the last one who doesn't have a net zero energy building. And so part of the kind of culture we're building there is, this is Dane County, this is the sort of thing we all do, and using that to bring momentum forward. So before I start on the second coalition, I want to just pause for a second and see if people have questions about that first one that are burning in your mind that we should answer.
Yeah. How do you bring people together? Like all those different cities and the schools that you mentioned. Is it virtual or?
It's mostly virtual because what we've learned is virtual works pretty well. Some things really need to be in person, and I think part of what we've learned is you have to have a little bit of a thick skin about, sometimes we're going to do events and the people I really think would benefit from being there aren't going to show up. And, you know, if it's virtual, I can record it and try to keep pushing it to them. But my example I would give you is around clean fuel fleets. So the city of Madison has been a national leader on electrifying their fleet. So they've got expertise in this. We've got a bunch of smaller communities where the sustainability staff want to see electrification, but there's pushback from the fleet people. So we had a great idea of having a fleet event where the fleet people would talk to the fleet people, you know, about fleet stuff. So we had this big parking lot, and my county colleagues brought our renewable natural gas snow plows, and, you know, there was just like a lot of really cool big stuff to look at. And some of the fleet people we were targeting, some of them showed up, but some of the real resistors just, you know, something came up and they couldn't. Well, okay, but now some of their colleagues from other communities are like, yeah, it was pretty cool because we got to see how this worked and, you know, I mean, they're fleet guys, they, how do you not show up, you know, so you do, some of those things we have to do a couple of times to go, okay, we're just gonna keep providing these resources. It's not that big of a deal to have an afternoon where we pull these vehicles into a lot and invite people over. You know? But it mostly virtual, but yeah, I have a thick skin about if you didn't come to my event, it's because your grandma died, it's not because you think my event was stupid.
You mentioned some of the opportunities around shared planning and maybe even shared applications or shared programming. Is there a process in place for creating like a platform or a shared goal, or do you let each community kind of work on their own priorities in the same space?
So we've seen it happen both ways. Maybe one that our communities thought was really good. Last year, we applied for the community EV charging funds. And that was a thing where we went, okay, it seems like our whole region should do this. We as the county are willing to be the lead, but everyone has to like commit that they're gonna be part of this, and we're gonna have weekly meetings for this, you know, and show up and read stuff and I would say we had like 20 communities that actively participated in that. We did not in the end get the grant, but I think it built a lot more, when we think about these things, we have to think about like all the places and we could do this together, and it is a lighter lift when we do it together than on our own. On some other things, on some of the state grant applications, because in Wisconsin, there's some old Recovery Act money from the Obama administration that's still being allocated. Those tend to mostly be single opportunities, although a number of our school districts followed that municipal example and did energy planning together. You know, so it's a little bit of both kind of things.
Clusters of interest.
Yeah, clusters is a good way to think about that. Yeah, I'll do one more of these. Go ahead.
All right, so you mentioned in one of the slides, a few slides ago, 10% or so of your time is dedicated to this coalition. And so for your leadership, the people you report to, what was sort of your initial justification, or how did you pitch this to them so that they could see the value of dedicating that much of your time to coalition building sort of outside of your organization?
Yeah, so, you know, the tension there, and I will tell you there is some tension that while our office was set up to achieve county-wide goals, most of the people inside the county are only used to thinking about county-specific objectives. And so I haven't experienced, part of what I think they like about the SLC is that local governments like it, and there's like momentum around that, and so there's goodwill and like all of that matters. But it is a challenge, and I'm sure other people face this, when you're talking about devoting resources to county-wide things instead of, well, why wouldn't we spend that to green up this piece of our operation kind of thing. You know, that I always have to go, because our operation is moving in the right direction, but this countywide stuff won't happen without more investment from us. Is sort of how, and sometimes that sells more easily than other times. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to talk statewide for a little bit. Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. So this is, so essentially right before COVID, like really the week before we all got sent home, I was at a builder conference in Wisconsin and ended up in a panel with people from Eau Claire and Milwaukee, and we started talking about how we really should talk about what we're doing, because we're all, we were put on this panel because we're all trying to do things to influence new home construction in our markets, and we're not really talking to each other. We should talk to each other. And there, certainly from us in Milwaukee, there was a sense that every time we tried to innovate, it would get squashed at the state level. And we sort of had a notion that, you know, maybe if we brought some other communities in, communities that the legislature seemed to like, and here I'm gonna say Green Bay, because we love our friends in Green Bay, they're part of our coalition, but when you lead with Green Bay in Wisconsin, you know, everyone knows it's a good thing, it's not political, it's different. And so my colleague Eric in Milwaukee had heard a presentation about this group in Colorado Communities for Climate Action, which is exactly what it sounds like, communities in Colorado trying to pressure the state, and they'd had some success. So we reached out to someone we knew at the Energy Foundation and said, hey, we're thinking we should do this in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a purple state, the foundation community has interest in us moving things forward. So there was support for us to get something organized. At this point, we have 20 members, so those dots are the cities, and there are outlined 4 counties on there. And essentially, again, a local government passes a resolution that, you know, consistent with their climate action goals, they know we need to green the grid and decarbonize buildings and transportation, and that's why they want to join WLGCC and be part of this effort to influence state action consistent with their goals, is kind of what the resolution says. This year, we filed for WLGCC to become a nonprofit. Until now, we were getting Energy Foundation that was funneled through an environmental group that had an Energy Foundation grant, and we were completely autonomous from them, but we really needed to be like more autonomous. You know, we're local governments, and we very often are aligned with our environmental friends on these issues, but there are moments where we're local governments and we need to say things in a certain way. So we just needed that autonomy. We have an executive director as of last year. And again, most of our funding at this point is coming from the Energy Foundation. As we did this 501c3 thing, we've become more formal. We have a small board, it's like 8 of our organizations, and then a full membership meeting that happen every month, plus there are working groups to kind of give you a sense of how that all works together. And we have 5 big priorities: greening the grid, decarbonizing buildings and transportation, people-centered, climate-smart land use, and resilient and natural solutions. So those are the big 5 things that we're like trying to put our heads around all the time. And you know, part of our impetus here was that some of these things, given our local goals, there wasn't fast enough state progress to help us get where we wanted to go. So we were really first focused on these kind of state issues. And you know, we started writing joint comments to our Public Service Commission about particularly around greening the grid. And in the course of those discussions, we would learn that so maybe I should have at some point told you that in Wisconsin, there are 7 investor-owned utilities, I don't know, let's say 40 municipal electric utilities and 20 co-ops. I mean, the map looks like a kaleidoscope. So across our local governments, lots of us have different utilities. And as we started talking to each other, started learning that how things worked was really different from one utility to the next. That the folks in Eau Claire got all this amazing data from their utility without even asking for it. And others of us couldn't get any data from our utilities. So that conversation sort of spurred more interest and kind of got more folks involved with us. So at the Public Service Commission, you know, we care about, so Wisconsin does not have an integrated resource plan. Our utilities have told us they're going to be green by 2030 or 2050, but we don't have a way to know what their plan really is to get there from today. So we've been pushing on that issue. We've been pushing on a lot of data issues. We want more efficiency funding. We want more equity funding. Net metering has been a big issue for us, so lots of things where we're doing joint comments together to try to move these issues forward. The thing I should say about our joint comments is that we're most typically, when we file comments, every community opts to sign on or not sign on. So there's no requirement that you're in on everything there. And we think over time that might evolve. I honestly think it's kind of powerful to get these comments at the commission where you've got 15 communities listed on the comments, it's like, oh, it is Green Bay, and oh yeah, it's not just Madison. We also care about stuff at other state agencies. So in Wisconsin, we have statewide building codes. We care about the folks who are operating the building codes. We have, we know that our Department of Transportation has really important data on EV penetration at the county level, but it's really hard to get that from them in any kind of timely way. That's another issue we've poked at. We're our state agency that did the carbon pollution reduction grants, we were a unified voice in that deliberation. So the big benefit of joint advocacy for someone like Dane County is that it's a lot less work to do joint comments. And it's a lot less work in two ways. So when I was first in my role, I would say to my leadership, hey, there's this issue at the commission, we should file comments on this. It's going to be important to our plan. And they would go, Kathy, the commission never listens to us. Be like, but this is a new commission. I think but it was really hard to get buy-in to, let me just write these comments, okay? They're all formed in my head. Let me put it on paper and it'll be okay. Now I say, hey, the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition is filing comments on this PSC proceeding. I think we should sign on. And often within 10 minutes, I get a sure, sounds good. Now, I will tell you that I'm still writing a whole chunk of those because I'm one of the people in the loop who is most into those things, but there's other people writing them too and editing them. And it's just, so it's a lot less work all the way around to get this done. It seems to us our joint comments carry more weight. And I think there's also been a benefit in us working through differences to develop those joint comments. So we become more nuanced in our understanding of, well, what do we mean when we say continue net metering? What are we arguing for here? Kind of thing. And I think this is really important. The smaller entities are part of that conversation. And, when we were working on our own, Milwaukee or Madison or Dane County might submit, but Green Bay and Eau Claire and La Crosse would never submit comments to the commission because that would have been a Herculean lift for them. And now they can routinely, much smaller communities in Dane County sign on to things and be part of, which demonstrates to their constituents that they're engaged in trying to help solve these problems. So there's some good reverberation for them, I think. As this coalition has evolved, we've started to do some things beyond. I think the advocacy work is still in many ways our core, but as we started talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, it was like, well, we don't all know what that means. And so our staff started working on some resources for us. The coalition can also shout out leadership from communities, which is, again, this really important positive reinforcement. You've got communities that get a call out on social media from some Wisconsin something group that says it's cool that you got an electric bus. That's, everyone likes to see someone else calling out their things. We're Midwesterners, so we're more comfortable when other people say things about our work than when we say it ourselves, so that lots of effort there. The other thing I should maybe point out there, so we just did an application to the state asking that they fund us creating a way for communities across Wisconsin to use a consistent protocol to do emissions inventories. Because one of our issues as we've been sort of talking is people do these inventories in different ways. And then they get compared to each other. And we're trying to convince people that this is all real and important, but your math is really different than my math, which proves there is no math and let's not worry about any of this, you know? So we're, yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, just with that, I was curious if, like the EPA planning for the climate pollution reduction grants helped with that or not. I didn't know how many people throughout Wisconsin applied, if it was just state level or if there was a
It was just state level because of the nuance of what the state applies for, you can't apply for, and
Got it. Okay.
yeah, there's like complicated, CPRG was really complicated. So we're all, what we're all proposing to use is ICLEI's ClearPath tool to do our emissions tracking. Because a few communities of different sizes had already been using that. And it wasn't what we were using in Dane County, but I'm like willing to go, yeah, this is the best tool for everyone. Let's do it together, kind of thing. In terms of results from WLGCC, late last year we had a major victory on net metering. So 2 of our investor-owned utilities had proposed to end net metering and create new, different things that weren't net metering. And we argued that there needed to be a consistent statewide policy, and the commission agreed and has started an open generic docket on that. So that is like one of our big wins. On building codes, our win was that we finally convinced the state agency that we knew something about building science and they should be talking to us about code updates. So our codes are really outdated in Wisconsin, like some other Midwest states. I don't know, our residential is the 2009 code and the commercial is the 2014, but key features were not adopted. So it's really pretty much 2009 too. So the legislature did not pass the commercial code update that we supported this year, but we're hopeful it can come in the next session. And the state did just get a DOE grant for code work, and our coalition is part of that, part of really training people around code enforcement and getting that local government piece going. So that feels like an important win. And you know, we're talking to utilities about utility data. It's kind of fascinating when you put them all in the same room and talk about data, because man, are those systems antiquated. I'll just say one thing. So one of the things we want, some municipalities want, is an easy way to aggregate all of the individual meter accounts for a building with multiple meters. Think a big commercial building where you've got a bunch of tenants. Well, in these conversations with utilities, one of the things we learned is that's not, like, those are all separate addresses in their system, and sometimes they're not even written the same way. You know, First Main Street may be 18 different ways in their system. They're like, we don't have any idea who's in the same building, which was powerful for me to think about how powerful other data sets are and how not powerful that particular data is. I think, you know, again, there's like a lot of momentum here. We've got small communities in the conversation. We're feeling like all of this is good momentum. I want to acknowledge that we're, and this is partly my discussions with Heather, like 3 of the other models that we're aware of, that it's just good for you to be aware of. There's Power a Clean Future in Ohio, which seems to have a little bit more business involvement with the municipalities. There's a long-standing Southeast Sustainability Directors Network in the Southeast that provides at least some of that camaraderie, it sounds like. And then this Colorado coalition that has notched up a bunch of legislative victories. So the Colorado folks on their website say 1 in 7 people in Colorado live in a CC4CA community. We say 1 in 3 people in Wisconsin live in a WLGCC community. My view is that has to be like 1 in 2 before we totally flip. But I think about that for like the Indiana people in the room and the whole, like, at what point do you have momentum? You know, cities have more population than those rural areas. So, you know, my aim in doing this talk here was to really help motivate, spark some discussions in local other places about, well, gee, who could we collaborate with? Who are the like-minded entities in our region that we could be leveraging to be heard in a more effective way? So I planned this so that we would have time to break into state level groups. So what we are going to do now is we're going to envision this room is the Midwest. And we're going to envision it from your side, which means, I kept doing this in my head. California is over there. And Massachusetts, you know, the East Coast is over there and the West Coast is over there. And so if you were Minnesota, you would be over here. If you were Ohio, there's like a whole chunk of Indiana people here in the middle. We're after lunch. I want you really to get up and move around and find your people.
We take our.
You are my picture.
Yeah.
It's about right on that. I guess Michigan, we're in the center.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah. I will trust you with someone if there's no one else.
Missouri, Indiana, right? Indiana.
I think you're gonna go further east, sorry.
Yeah.
You need.
Okay.
Indiana.
Say, do we want?
Another table.
All right, Minnesota.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if I have any friends.
Yeah. Michigan.
We need another table.
We share a lot of same challenges, so.
So if you've only got one Iowa person or something, yeah, you
It's all Indiana.
make your choice.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Minnesota. State.
Okay, it's done.
Well, next year this conference.
City. Madison, so that's gonna be fun. Grinnell College. So I had years in Iowa.
We just kind of pull that table in.
We're in Grinnell College. My city just moved all the tables. Iowa looks like Southern Illinois. It's just like red and gray.
I'll check on the Indian. Eastern, I can hover.
You could go to.
I was gonna say.
Always had.
You're only Ohio?
Around like.
You and I can hang out.
You're welcome.
Do here, Michigan, go over here with Ohio.
Looks like I'm going with Ohio and.
Just gonna assign.
No, it's like.
Three.
My God.
So now you're largely in a.
I did not.
What I want you to do is just spend, we're gonna spend about 10 minutes, 15 maybe, we'll see how this goes. You talking at your table about like what similar coalitions or collaboratives are you aware of that already exist in your area? What gaps are there? Who else should be at the table? Mostly I want you to just chat through, okay, what of this could you take back? Because at the end, I'm gonna ask every table to tell me who is gonna do what to move something forward in their region. And we're gonna announce that because I'm, I didn't say very much about my background, but I'm obsessed with human behavior. So if I get someone to stand up and say that this is gonna happen and this person is gonna do it, there's all these other people who heard that and it increases the odds hugely that it will happen. So we're just trying to create some real momentum. So again, you've got 10-ish minutes to talk about those things in your group. Go for it.
We have Urban Sustainability Directors Network. Midwest.
Since I've been thinking more of this time.
Community.
No, I mean, we have an association.
We'll have full discussions there. We have
Association.
Iowa communities that participate in that. We've had a couple formal discussions, but there's years growing about formalizing that relationship with other communities. We started a resilient Iowa community program out of University of Northern Iowa about a year or so ago, year and a half ago. They pulled in a lot of rural planning.
But local side.
Oh, it's limited some time with you and I, so that's kind of something right now. And so maybe we provide.
Yeah. Really the OG convening of local
I think I have buy-in.
Originally it was to the mayors and I learned over the years that it's just.
They're always asking. And we always have.
Or, in fact, we have a unified.
For the other.
Forester person. It's relatively new, but yeah, they passed, commission, clean energy statewide. Is that why you asked the question? Some cities, because I think I say that. Honestly, until I did that, I probably haven't ever worked with 10% of all. As an really, try to.
Same with me. Yeah.
It might just be, that might be an ability to take it. County.
But it's not 15, me telling you who was, it's not like,
No, because
the whole staff.
Stormwater is such a
Many things.
have this model, which is
That
abundance.
builds capacity
You
to
see.
expand what you can do.
Regional energy hub.
I'll stop talking.
I was gonna ask, a couple like
helping.
examples that we have.
So, from just like independent
Action plan.
Providers and it's.
county, it's really great for them. But we have several coalitions, so.
Drive. Drive heat pump.
Mississippi River Towns Initiative, West,
So, I mean, my
we
angle.
have like our regional.
And so I work nationally. So I-
Our West Gateway, and then
I think having you.
My
it
focus.
was.
Special challenge.
I'm a little newer to my role,
Yours.
thing in 7 months, so.
Every
Things
point.
going on that I'm like, it hasn't even hit my radar yet, so there could be others that you
Yeah.
about. But I see like several other cities in the state that like feel similarly, like Kansas City, Columbia, Springfield, and maybe a handful of others. Doing something.
See
what I see like collaboration in the city, like we have 79 neighborhoods, we have neighborhoods.
Yeah, that's right.
Areas, so like it's a all kind of time. And then we have like that.
Very concerned
City
that.
level.
So we're trying to get this in. As a piece. Yeah.
I don't really know much about all of them.
This is our lane. So we're starting, but I wouldn't call it collaborative quite yet. Hospital, I should, but it's the hospital's backup. Before you can actually.
Yeah, I am not in a position, right, like any kind of.
Maybe because of that, people's experience. Try to look for that. Behind the condition.
We have lots of resources though.
Be a micro.
We do all the research.
Where our
Regional.
is making the case for.
Can I say, would you?
No, one of the.
Policy note, if like St. Louis Sustainability Office like asked you to, or just it has to be.
It's not in our charter. We don't.
Industry, I figured out like.
Interesting.
Our like state.
As a trusted.
Trying to get Wayne, Oakland and McComb to agree on anything when there's very, it's like,
Together.
might as well be different. There's the east-west divide in Michigan, and then there's the
Our
upper.
website is of course communities that are.
So it is very like the dynamics of that come into play quite a bit.
It can be kind of a helpful metric of like. Someone reached out to them and asked for, and then also.
Which is actually very similar. A lot of those challenges.
You don't know who, but it,
So,
yeah.
it's essentially a checklist.
How does your charter get changed?
Given 50.
That is, we're not an advocate.
Multiple aspects of sustainability. They cover environmental, they cover like social.
Yeah, that's.
They cover economic.
Um,
And kind of pick and choose, right? Like a city manager who doesn't have a whole lot of time can go through this checklist. And grab their and say, hey, which of these things are we doing? Do we want to do like applies to us? And there's that thing, right? That recognition of bronze, silver, gold, platinum platform. Then once you get past bronze, and actually then you just have this leadership circle, unified Michigan Municipal, and you're actually kind of mentioning Sustainability Institute at U of M, get a fellow, 10 weeks in the summer. And work on something really
Agency, I just initially thought, well, we have to work region.
in that sense, we're
Or the surrounding.
over those types of things.
It's like, well, we have to live, work,
There
in my.
the issues are regional. Itty bitty portion of South Bar, there's one person who's looking. Generally,
Kind of feeling that out.
it's not as weedy resource city county. If somebody goes, hey, I wanna do this work, then everybody started. And if you're doing all the work, I'll do it. And it reminds me of like that I was in school conditioning out of somebody. That's like, that's been my experience.
So.
I know. One person comes over, it was a
Fast and I'm like,
having sort of goes
the conversation, but like, the advantage, like, maybe some here. They thought kind of falls in line. We're all, you know, already in your realm. Sometimes you'll get an answer. Sort of a sister. That's and out. Do that with the teachers. And I guess my angle is.
That is probably the biggest year round SBS for
That, but this department.
and yes, to make
Are even aware.
nonprofit. I never even got it till the day I've been. Never made it past the city. I don't know. Reasons.
Oh, excellent.
When I talked to the grants coordinator at another conference, I was really annoyed that she didn't. Note it.
Sure, so I'm gonna.
You know, there's this whole, and I spent one time.
The Trent local government. As of July, I became our climate. policy.
Right now, that I dealt with.
And so my day to day is local.
A little bit in that. I heard something previously.
I'm trying to figure out how to. Option of heat pumps.
We also have.
Make that.
Have a city.
How do we?
So I might question and spend days researching.
And only work.
But I mean,
How do you?
you
You can push out your own city. Say, hey, facilities maybe I need it. For like, you know,
It's sort of, another sort of debate. Like
because
with
it's
environment.
got a million.
Just short, or is it restaurant inspections?
Sustainability on the top. So it goes, I don't know where I'm going with this. It's sustainability.
Have implemented.
Probably.
Question.
Nonprofit things. To the table.
Right, that's.
Much more likely to see.
Doesn't have collaborative.
Is like, you have a sustainability manager. They handle everything.
Actually,
I don't think I know. Yeah, that's not.
but if you're, yeah, if your job is childhood group.
So I work at Wash U in our Center for the Environment. And not like outreach. But
That's at a
Yes.
level.
I do the university and the
Even thinking about,
that
you know.
in our office of sustainability, that tends to be the space where I think we really engage a lot with like the city of St. Louis.
Yeah.
And
then on
support other municipalities. I don't know too much about it. I know for sure, been a part of some, like
My job shouldn't be.
supporting like solar panel buying efforts, you know,
Fascinated by all the data.
we've got some projects that are helping answer questions like the city of St. Louis. So I don't know a ton about what you guys done. I know our Office of Sustainability is about like, how do we urbanize our campus and also like
Organize.
like not and then like
And to Shannon's point, they're part of the community and how do we provide
it up and have as a
and then
tier coordinator. You might even be able to speak better about what you guys partnered with in the city.
Did a great.
In Milwaukee.
Right now.
Milwaukee was the.
About the number of research projects that we're working on, to fill.
I know Phil's not here. He was sick. But Cassie is here. You're in Cassie. She works.
Letting this, I mean, just being at the conference today, I'm like,
By the idea that
tell me like small.
like instead of lean on, because I'm trying to imagine like going to I work for the city of South Bend, going to the mayor and being like,
So that's one thing that's part.
here's a thing, should I sign it or not? And depending on the date, you'd be absolutely not, that's way too political.
Yeah, but I mean,
And then.
With Gateway, there's like a sustainability that called one which is similar.
Surprising few cities address disparities and how.
Basically, I had.
You're gonna call us back to see what. I mean,
I want to feel just small.
I'm gonna call us back, I wanna kind of.
Sorry, we got
From each group,
Me and then you and the
what
city
you
of.
guys are talking about, because I think other groups could benefit, and
One question.
you don't have to, okay, here's the thing. You all are, many of you are in government, so you know, just because there's a question doesn't mean you have to answer it. Really important thing, it's a super, I'm an oldest child, so it's super hard for me not to answer those questions. I hear that a lot from our communications people. Kathy, why did you answer that question? I was going for the gold star. Anyway, I
relate to that.
yeah, I want to kind of hear from each group just a little, maybe a little bit of like, what conversation you're having, sort of thing. Who has something to share? Make me call on a group. There you go.
Hello, this is Missouri. And
Yeah.
Plus Iowa. So, we only got through the first question, but I think what we all kind of talked about is that there are some opportunities for regional collaborative efforts. And then as well as we have a lot of WashU representatives here, so, university collaboration as well, and kind of working towards those goals.
Awesome.
Hello, everyone. So this is Ohio and Michigan.
Canada.
I'm Canada, okay.
Canada.
So we kind of talking about collaboration. We have all our regions and local governments or area, we are kind of dynamic. As we have this kind of dynamism in local government, that's when we also have it at the state level and also organization base. So we say that okay, it's difficult because not everyone will be on board for the collaboration, but it's also helpful when it comes together to kind of as a united effort to really take the climate action forward. So, but like the other side of the story is we also have, like in Ohio, we have collaboration with Greater Cincinnati, the one where I came from. So we have collaboration, and especially when it comes to funding. So it's funding that kind of attract everyone. So the CPRU stuff, we came together as a 60 counties to really, 60 county represented by 6 organizations, including OKIA, which is the regional government, to really write the grants and also make the submission last week Monday, this week Monday. So we came together, we collaborated, and also making sure that we did our emission, and we look at the highest rank in the emission to see how we can draw it down from industry to transportation and also building. So, and it helps us, and we are kind of making some effort.
Awesome.
Just add to that real quick. I think one of the more interesting things that came out of our quick conversation was being in Cincinnati, which is, you know, at the confluence of 3 different states with very different politics. How many different counties? 8?
We have 16.
16 different counties and trying, so, you know, I mean, in Metro Detroit, as we were talking, like, it's hard enough, but
Right.
doing it across 3 states. So really trying to figure out what the low hanging fruit, what the commonality is. I think there's a lot of heavy lift at the beginning when you're designing any sort of collaboration before you even step a foot out of saying, how can we even begin to find what is in the middle of the Venn diagram there and aim for it?
Right. Though sometimes it's okay to go, we're just gonna start a conversation and then we're gonna understand what that common value is, you know, I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves that if I bring these people together, I have to have a plan I'm a pretty big advocate lately of, you know, sometimes you just bring people together and as you're talking, something emerges as, oh, this is the really good idea, and yeah, why would I have had that on my own? Who over here wants to have something to say? Come on, there's a lot of Hoosiers over here. I learned on the way down here, though, and we carpooled down, of course, and my colleague was like, what is a Hoosier? We did not find a very satisfying answer.
It's not a.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it
Anyone
is.
from St. Louis?
State you're
from,
yeah.
yeah.
Sure. At the beginning, I don't know.
No Hoosier knows or cares.
Everyone should watch the movie Hoosier when they go home. It's a movie about basketball. Hoosiers, sorry. That's just my 2 cents.
Shouldn't reach for the mic.
Yeah, I should know that. It's really
Movie called Hoosier, it's about basketball.
We talked a lot about regional partnerships, I think, as other groups did, how we did these kind of like, instead of just, I guess, for my example, I'm from Greater Lafayette, which is Lafayette, West Lafayette, and Purdue, so that's just 3 communities that are really close, so that's pretty easy to work with us. I mean, everyone's really close, they kind of live there forever, but, when you get to these bigger metro areas, I would say, like Indianapolis, you know, the donut counties around it, working with those, or even getting a north and a south regional, I think, thing going would be really helpful, in any of these kinds.
I think one of the things we're sort of getting to at the end there is like, well, what would be the common baseline that we could unite around? I think that's an open question that we didn't quite get to answer. Would it be offices of, you know, and who would have capacity, right? Those are kind of the balances of, stormwater can unite people, right? But so can climate action plans, but do we have enough climate action plans? Yeah, and I think that's kind of the open question, but maybe like you said, gathering people to start would be helpful to figure out, well, if we could sign on to something, what would you want to join? You know, would it be about solar? Would it be about, and a thought I just had was like, I was at the first session today about, communicating about climate change, and maybe those climate opinion maps from Yale could be really helpful to be like, okay, well, what is the baseline throughout these different counties in Indiana? Well, all of them support energy efficiency. So we could kind of pressure the state house together on those things that it's clear that a lot of their constituents already support.
Right.
So maybe I'm starting to think about what resources could help with that.
Right. Well, and I know there was some discussion here about like existing meetings where you could break off and have a, you know, which is also like how you find people. Yes, go ahead.
Would you say more about what the beginning of the local government climate coalition looked like, and like how did you decide what to focus on and navigate different priorities and decide how did people decide like staff member to send?
Yeah, and it was, you know, so really it was sort of Eric in Milwaukee and I going, yeah, this seems like a really good idea. We should see if our friends at the Energy Foundation would help us with this. And when they said, yeah, we would provide some funding, then we talked to a few, you know, we talked to Madison and the places we knew where there was someone, but also people knew other people kind of thing. And up front, the bias was the people involved. Eric and I were sort of obsessed with the things that were happening at the commission. So we were a lot focused on, we need the commission to help us reach our clean energy goals. They're not helping us. We need to articulate that. Our codes work, we all individually tried to influence the state agency who was leading the code review unsuccessfully. And then one day, Eric, so he's the eco office in Milwaukee, he was on a radio show and they asked him about, I think it was the ACEEE rating for Milwaukee and why it was so low. And he said, because our state building codes are crap and I can't fix that. And when he got back to his desk, he had a message from DSPS who wanted to talk to him about how good our building codes were. And then we got to have finally a conversation with them. Because they were like, no, the building industry told us our codes are excellent. And you can already tell I'm a little unfiltered. I was like, well, everyone I know who knows building science says they're crap. And I'm like, and anyone who asks me, that's the answer they're gonna get. And so then, this is part of an administration where people are overwhelmed with a ton of things and, that agency is understaffed. They did not have expertise. To their credit, they listened to us. We brought in experts. They proposed a really robust package to the legislature. There was real progress there. So maybe my other answer to you then is, some of it was our bias and some of it was opportunistic. Oh, wait, here's a moment where we're going to get somewhere on this issue. I think now that we have an executive director, Allison is way more methodical. That's why we have 5 clear priorities now. She's like thinking about, okay, our limited resources, where do we invest them? And there's a process where membership votes on that every year, and those are in a priority order and all of that kind of thing. But up front, it was way ad hoc and opportunistic, because that's what you do when you're in that moment.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other?
Just sort of related to that, I know that one of the ways we've succeeded, and sort of without my Canada hat and more my economic development in Southeast Michigan hat, my previous hat, of using external motivators to create coalitions. And the biggest one for us recently was when Amazon was making every community bend over backwards to try to pimp themselves out for a second headquarters. And Metro Detroit marched in lockstep and said, we're going to do this. It's going to be great. We'll figure it out. And they managed to successfully put a proposal together, but only because major industry said, you guys in government can't figure out how to put a hat on, so we're going to take it and we're going to do it. And they did it. And they didn't succeed, but the feedback, all the feedback from Amazon of why we didn't get it was things that were purview of government. It was no regional transportation plan that makes sense. All these metrics around attracting and retaining talent that we think of as community building and live spaces and all these things that are important to us that we failed on. And so that created an organization that stepped aside that became a regional partnership that is trying to slowly address some of those things that's a bit hybrid between government and private industry. And so those sort of motivators can also be, and you think of all the IRA funding that's out there that none of us really have answers to, but that's a great motivator to get people moving a little bit more.
Yeah, and to go, well, okay, you're not going to figure this out all by yourself. It's thousands of pages of guidelines. How about we work together and figure it out? I do think, those moments can help create that, okay, we really do need to work together. Yeah.
I think CPRG kind of forced that in a lot of ways, because a lot of organizations that were like, well, we work with these counties all the time, but we've never had a conversation with this county. And you're like, okay, now we work together and now there's a plan. Not everyone's gonna get funded.
Thanks for your time.
Coming together around a thing then builds the coalition so that you're moving on to the city.
Right. And now you can't say we've never worked with them. You have worked with them, and it turned out they could turn their stuff in on time, and they, were decent collaborators at the table. And all of that, like so much of our work, the smart people around me always say, this all moves at the speed of trust. Because I'm kind of impatient and I move a lot faster than that most of the time. But, every one of those experiences kind of builds we're sort of all regular people and we want good things for our communities and we can work together. And, that all builds that momentum that can come together for yet another proposal or another initiative in some way. It changes the conversation. in a purple state. Okay, I'm remembering I have like one more slide that I have to. So put up there, because I want to just like end on this, you know, it is really hard to do all of this in purple and red states, but if it was easy, we'd be done. Okay, it's important, and doing it together is a lot easier than doing it individually, so, you know, we can go. I think that's probably Iowa, not Indiana. I mean, you know, it was a person cheering and it was an I, and I was like, I'm just not gonna Google far enough to know if it was a free picture, not one that I could get sued for using.
Cyclones.
There you go, I knew we were gonna have Des Moines, I wanted to that I was gonna. Yeah, so thank you all. I think these will, like the last ones of these will get uploaded, you'll have my contact. Go forth and do good things. Thank you.